I lead the Llama agents at LlamaIndex. So LlamaIndex, we mostly deal in document AI. Our core products are around parsing. So you'll have various messy file formats, and you need to get information out of them. And a lot of these documents are extremely complicated, and they're all sorts of different files. And so there's a lot of glue that is required to get good information out of those. And there's also a lot of, these are high value processes that our customers have, and they really want to get like 100% accuracy. So that does require humans. So this is usually processes that involve humans that are like, not really fun, but like painstaking. So you have a pile of papers and you need to link stuff up, find, extract information, and do stuff with them. And so really what we're trying to do with Llama agents is figure out tools so that you can get that information out, reliable tools. So we have a variety of small products, but the main thing is that a lot of them are open source, but the main thing is our workflow engine, as well as a workflow server. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that workflow engine that we've built, how we've integrated with DBOS so that you can scale it up and get durability and reliability for all of those things that you need out of your documents. And I'll give you a little example of an application made with it. And also feel free to stop me with questions at any point. Happy to explain more. So I sort of already talked about this, but like with document processing involving LLMs, it's all very slow and expensive. You don't want to restart everything. Not only is it slow, but it's going to cost you a lot. And then in a lot of these processes, there's chaining of this and that to try to get everything right. And you need to parallelize those. You need to probably pull in some libraries to do some additional analysis. Like you might want to do something with Pillow to look at your images. Sometimes you can kind of eke out performance that way. And you also need it to be able to pause so that somebody can review and resume things, all that good stuff. So a lot of what we've kind of innovated on in our workflow engine is kind of at the syntax layer. So traditional workflow systems kind of evolved as this declarative thing. They were like YAML, and then it somehow ran some code. And you'd kind of scratch your head and try to make sure that everything linked up. But you could get statically analyze it, and that's kind of a good thing. You can know that your workflow is doing the right thing, but it gets really verbose to do complex things. And then folks started innovating with it and took a code first approach. And you have the workflow journal and you replay it and it's deterministic and you get to just write code. So, you know, step functions kind of started this, I think. Temporal evolved from that, and cadence and DBOS is the same way. And that's really nice, but you lose some of the kind of workflow graph that you can statically analyze things, and especially as you're kind of vibe coding your workflow. It's nice to have an extra layer of security that you didn't do something dumb. So one nice thing about our syntax for our workflows is that we use static types to describe the graph. And so the return type, it's basically you only have steps and the events dictate how the workflow runs. So if you return a section work event, it will dispatch over to the step that takes the section work event. And then you can do some funny things to parallelize this and get async flows. And so you both get Python, and then your return types are the graph edges, and you have a full workflow graph. And you can do things like statically, output what your workflow actually is, so you can visualize it and understand it, which is one of the nice things you get. And you can also validate it, if you have a step in there that's not in any way possible to reach, you'll get a startup time error. So you basically can use tests to confirm that your workflow is doing what you want it to do. To build on this, we have a very pluggable system so that you can kind of write your workflow in a notebook, save its run out as a file. You could resume from a file. Um, and we also have a workflow server that you can put over top of it. So you'd say you develop a workflow and then you want to make it reachable. So you just add that workflow to this workflow server concept. You get a REST API. You can do SSE streaming and all your human in the loop stuff so that you can kind of interact with it. And to build on that, we have a React library that can connect to the server, knows how to speak its language, and comes with some built-in components. So you could, its primitives are hooks, so you can just kind of build some hooks and bring your own UI. We also have a few components for kind of common document analysis primitives. And kind of a continuation of that is if you want to scale it up and have more durability, you can just pass in the DBOS build server runtime. And that will let you have multiple replicas. And so you can kind of see this whole journey from like prototype to production without actually changing your core workflow. You just keep extending it. And so when you have, with our DBOS plugin, you can either drop it in as the server or actually as a normal runtime if you just have it in some logic in your app. And we just end up wrapping DBOS steps and kind of have a small wrapper layer. And it's really just DBOS running under the hood. And so you get all your normal durability and scalability stuff. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to a demo now. This demo is based on nonprofit 990 forms, which are very long forms. They're tax forms. Again, something that is a meticulous job for somebody to scan through and find numbers and reference stuff. It's a little bit of a pain. So over here, I'm running it in this really cool program called Tilt. So it's got the UI up. We've got a Postgres running. We have the backend running connected to the Postgres with DBOS, and it's running over here. So this is built with our UI components. I can walk you through the code while it's running because some of it will be kind of slow. So let's start seeing it in action. I'm going to pick this one because it's a little bit smaller and should run faster. So this workflow, how it works is we've got 49 pages. There's distinct sections, and we're trying to get certain information out of it here. We want to know like the total revenue, things like that. A lot of this was just for demo, so I don't know what the actual job is here, but these are some example fields that might be useful to extract. So right now it's talking to our cloud product, LlamaParse. It just split it into different sections, found the different sections. Now it's trying to pull some specific information from each section, and we know which pages these are on. So actually some of them are interestingly chunked around. So for example, programs, it might often reference another field. So there might be something in here that's saying, ooh, go look at this, like addendum for some more information. It doesn't fit in this form. So I'll let that run for a bit. We can see it running. But to give you an idea here, this is the basic app. It's a fast API app. We've hooked up the DBOS runtime, done some other boilerplate, and where's the actual workflow is a few hundred lines of mostly talking to our cloud product, and it's just kind of munging the data through. But it's running in parallel here. It's almost done. Let me show you our debugger real quick if I can. So this comes bundled with it. there should be a running one in here. It might have just, yeah. So you can kind of see it as it's running. If it's still running, it might be completed now, but you'll kind of see the events flow through here. You can see what happened. It's just like a useful tool to know what your workflow is actually doing. Oh, and it completed. So yeah, we got all the information out. You can cross-check through some of this stuff, but for example, the summary, it figured out the organization name, that's Khan Academy. We got the employer identification number. That one's maybe a little bit of a miss. I think it's trying to highlight this stuff up here, which fiscal year it is. Often at times it attributes it to year. We got the total revenue, total expenses. So we got a lot of useful information here. Let's check out the programs because that was what I was talking about with this sort of addendum section. I think that's one of these. This is page 13, I think. So we have sort of the expenses somehow in here. Yeah, the expenses are over here. But actually, I think we'll see description, see additional data. And so we ended up getting the description from over here somewhere, platform development. Yeah, there it is. So it pulled that out from the other page. So there's some really cool things you can do by like composing some AI primitives. This whole UI is built from streaming from the server. So as events come in, it just does a sort of reducer on top of it. Um, it's a little bit verbose. I kind of vibe coded some of this, so it could probably be cleaned up, but let me see if I can pull that up. So the UI here is largely in this item page. So as I said, there's a lot in here, but it is actually doing a lot. So it's kind of fair. We have 1,500 lines of sort of boilerplate reducing down those events, but those are sort of the same events that were emitted from your workflow, and you can build a UI from them. So it's pretty cool.
Very cool. And are those are those partial outputs? Are you interrogating the DBOS workers at all in order to get the information? Or I guess your workflow just returns these as a list or something like that.
Yeah,
But
so
it is run in parallel, so there must be a queue of some kind.
yeah, so we extend DBOS in a couple ways so that we get a little bit more of a richer model for the workflow server. You can query your past workflow runs, including some metadata.
Hmm.
And depending on whether you run it as a server or run it in-app, we extend the workflow events when you run it as a server so that you can get this kind of cursorable stream. And so you can kind of resume from the start or resume from where you left off there, and it'll make an SSE request to that and kind of stream events down. So you can think about using that for things like, chat completions too. So you could implement chat that way.
Very cool. Ben from Ben, hi, good to see you. Ben asks, is this workflow engine an open source project? Is it tied to LlamaIndex products or is it a standalone project?
It's tied to LlamaIndex open source, so it is all open source. I put the link in the chat, and we've got a few things in there, but like the DBOS, so DBOS plugin is in there as well as a number of our tools. Yeah.
Very, very cool. What was the most surprising thing about integrating with DBOS for you guys?
Surprising. I don't know. I wasn't that surprised. It's a journal in Postgres is exactly what I wanted.
All right. Sounds good. Have you done any work at all with like versioned execution and forking, right? So like there was a case where it didn't quite, you mentioned it didn't quite find the right fiscal year end, right? And so we have a story around that where you can um, replace a step and fork the workflow without re-executing the rest of it, but just try try to restart from where you, starting from a particular step on a new version of the code. Have you started looking at that at all?
So no, but we should. I think there's some of the versioning tools in our own workflow engine abstractions are there's just not any. So it's sort of like you better kind of think that through yourself or you might blow up. Um, but there is a concept in our basic package of just sort of snapshotting the state. Since the workflow is not, Python code, you can very easily snapshot the state and kind of compress it down rather than working through the full journal and resume from there. Um, and so there is some things being used there internally to sort of idle workflows and eject them. So if you're like waiting on a human in the loop step, it'll kind of discard the old workflow, free up memory, and you can resume from it later from a snapshot.
Oh, that's interesting. That's very cool. Okay. Tobalo asks, for steps requiring LLM tool calls, observability on spans, tracing with DBOS steps and workflows, any lessons learned there? Kind of an open-ended question too. Tobalo, feel free to say more if there's more to the question.
Yeah, hi, thank you. This is very insightful, and these document AI workflows are very useful. So when you're doing, let's say, and I don't know, maybe this is more on the Llama parse side, but when there's a call to, let's say, a OCR model or any agentic piece that's tool calling, like observability and token usage with the DBOS kind of base. I'm curious just how you guys think about that or have done that, or say there's some degradation on one of those steps, assuming that's the case, but just
Um, So all of the steps in our workflows are instrumented with, we have a sort of bridge. So you could use OpenTelemetry or some other non-open telemetry providers. So we have this observability package. Every step is tracked, so you get a span for those. Some tools, for example, what's it called? Arise. It auto instruments the LlamaIndex framework. So if you're using that for LLMs, you'll get kind of token count and whatnot emitted. And so you can kind of see the whole trace through of how your workflow ran, all of its spans, and then you'll get kind of details about exactly the token usage.
and a quick follow on like the evals or evaluations on the outputs. Sort of similar with OpenTelemetry, or is there any extra?
Yeah, there's nothing in our packages on evals. You'll kind of need to take that raw information that you tracked elsewhere and do something with it. But we do have the tools so that you can kind of like save stuff and take that and save it, do something with it.
Right. TM asks, can you speak about how does a retry happen during an error, and how does your workflow sync the state between it and DBOS?
So we end up managing errors internally. Let me see if I can pull some of this up. Um, so this is actually a fairly new feature. We've extended the error handling a lot. But basically, if something crashes, we have a very expressive language that's basically copying tenacity, but it runs durably. So you can specify a retry policy. You can wait. You can stop. You can do some random jitter with back off. There's a very expressive set of primitives that you can kind of compose. And to top all that off, we have a new feature that if your full workflow crashes, you can kind of have this final handler and restart your workflow graph. So you don't need to you can do some final operation if you failed, or
Hmm.
specifically retry.
Awesome. Really cool. Okay. And Jared asks, are you using nested workflows here? Are you doing like fan outs, and are you using queues?
Internally, it's kind of has a queue concept. There's no kind of external queue, so there's a little bit of a state machine on the inside. So that's how we kind of maintain our pluggability. As long as we can express that state machine, we can connect and manage it from DBOS. So nested workflows, that's a kind of IOU. We would love to do more there, to be able to compose them or look up like a sibling workflow and communicate with it. Yeah. Right now, you kind of have to put it all in one workflow.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're also getting more and more capabilities to deal with those and to visualize them from the conductor side. So a bit more news on that coming up later in the meetup. So
Very cool.
Adrian, thanks so much. This looks awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us.